Okay, let me log out of here quickly so that I can start from afresh. Okay, so Anna, just going on from what I've seen with all the meets is you want to just go through each of these steps, or at least each of these points. Okay. Have you also got them open? Are you there? Anna? Sorry, you broke up quite a bit there. Anna?
Yeah, sorry, load shedding shift.
Oh, you just get load shedding.
Sorry about that. So you lost me. Okay. So I think let's start off with where we sign in. What is the URL that you make use of? And then how do you sign in and what user details do you use?
Okay. Okay, so obviously this is obviously just a staging URL, but for the clients, they would be using this URL, which is mystock.tallorder.app. We will be eventually transitioning to these Amplify app URLs, but these are currently just for testing purposes at the moment. It's supposed to help with the speed and everything in the flow of it. But currently right now, for clients, they will be signing in on mystock.tallorder.app. And that is also pretty much where support, sales, and marketing will also be using. They can use this URL over here to test on, but for clients, this is what they'd be using. So that's the URL that they would go into. So what I'll do is I'll do that. Let me just go actually onto it. You'll be brought to here, to this page, to the login page. You'll be given the version of what the current version is that we are running on the prod branch. And these are your credentials that you use. It's the same login details that you use on your back office. So it's your username, which is your password. Which is your email address, and your password, which would be the same as what is on the admin. And then you sign in over here. And then this is where you get brought to. You get brought to the merchant page. So if a client has got 3 or 4 different selling locations, this is where they'll see it. So if they've got 3 selling locations, you'll see 3 different merchants over here.
For our support staff, Shane, will all of our merchants be accessible here?
Yes.
Okay, so they will be super admins and they will be able to see everything.
Correct. Yeah, they'll be able to see all the clients' information, like how I am seeing it, because all of us internal, we are all super admin, so they see what I can see. So you can see the testing, which is like Alex's and mine and Cameron's and everyone's, and you will be able to see the actual clients that are using.
That are on myStock.
On myStock, who are on myStock. So there's only, that many. If you want to make it, this is how many people are actually using myStock. This is including staff.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
If you want to search for a merchant, Shane, where would you go to search for a merchant?
So here in the merchant, you can select the little the magnifying glass, and you can type out the tenant ID here, and you can go search, and then it will bring it. Or you can go to here, and you can type out the name. You can just type out there, and it'll bring up merchants here that have got that name in it.
Okay, perfect. If you now need to enter that merchant, would you do that?
When you want to enter the merchant, you simply select where it is grayed, where it's covered, where it's grayed out. You select that one, you click on it. You can click anywhere where it's gray, and it will open up the tenant. And it'll open up to the dashboard of that tenant.
Can you explain to us the use of the dashboard, please?
So the use of the dashboard is basically customizable to each business's requirements. What it is it basically shows you all of the stock actions that are relevant to this merchant. So you will see each stock location has a different dashboard look. Or when I say dashboard look, it can be customized to each specific stock location. So I'm in Wineland's stock location, and I want to have all I want to see so say this specific stock location that I'm in, I only really do stock takes and maybe some purchase orders. So what I do is if I want to only see these, I would go to my filter on the right. I would select which locations I want to see. So if I am Winelands and I work between the bar store and say the warehouse and my own, this is obviously my location. You can go here. Oh, sorry, I'll close it. You can select those three. You can, when you first open it, it will be all nothing. It'll all be unselected. There won't be anything here. So you need to actually physically come in and put in the stock locations that you want to see on your dashboard. So once you do that, you can select which ones you want. You can choose to select and see everything, or you can say, right, I only want to see my purchase orders. So I can do that, or I can do that, that. And I also only want to see my stock takes. So I can select stock takes, but I don't really need to see rejected, and I want to see all the rest. So then I can say cool, and you say close, and then you can also customize your date range of what you want, how much stuff you want to see on the dashboard. So if I only want to see the last week's worth, I can select 7 days, or I can see, I actually want to see the current month. So I can go all the months to date, however you want to do it. Let's say for this instance, I want to see the month, this current month, and then I select the refresh button here, basically, and that refreshes the page, and it will show me everything that has been done regarding these specific stock actions for this month.
So this is a dashboard is kind of an overview of what happened in your myStock merchant. I'm giving you the actions that you would like to see, and that is then displayed here for your quick access. Correct?
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. It's an overview, and it's an overview of basically the stock locations in that are regarding these specific stock actions. So this purchase order was placed. It's in the placed status, so it hasn't been completed or anything yet, and it's between the Winelands stock location, and this is obviously the supplier that the purchase order was placed through.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Shane. From a support side, I would just like to know if somebody changes the dashboard here, does it change for the full merchant, or is it only changing for that user that is looking at myStock at that time?
No, it is only for that user at the time. So if you are also so say I'm a client and this is my merchant, and the support needs to go in and have a look at their dashboard. If you sign in obviously as a super user and you change the dashboard, it won't change it on their side. This is basically customized to per users.
Okay, so from a support perspective, most probably you would like to see everything so that you know where to start looking for something. Unless you specifically know what you're looking for, then you can filter.
Correct. And the customers will always use this. They will always come in here and make sure that what the customers need to do is they always need to make sure that their dashboards are always correct. Because sometimes if an update has been pushed or anything from the devs, it will sometimes open up the dashboard and everything will be cleaned again. So you need the customers and the support need to know that they always need to come check here and make sure that stock locations are selected, because sometimes you might open up and your dashboard says no data. So that's because there hasn't been anything selected here, or there hasn't been any actual stock actions that have been selected.
Okay, thank you, Shane. I think the next step is I would like you to show the settings and where do you start with settings, where do you find settings, and then we can move forward to look at the different settings of setting up myStock.
Cool. Okay, so on the left side, you've got your menu where you will go and select anything that you need to go through. Here, the settings is right at the bottom. You click on the settings, and it brings up a drawer full of settings such as your approval settings, your access control settings, your stock locations, suppliers, departments, and reasons. So with when you have a client that has when a client that needs to set approvals for specific staff members, such as managers and owners of the business, usually when a specific stock order is being done, it usually requires us an extra level of security before it actually gets released out of that location, whether it's a purchase order or a stock take or such. So it's usually just another level of approval, basically, is what it's trying to say. So if I select approvals, it'll bring me to this page here, which has got your approval settings, and it will give you all the types of actions that there are that currently can require approvals, and if it's required, how many are required, and these are the approvers. So for example, over here, you'll see that I've got Alex and Shane Dean as purchase orders, but there is no approvals required. So if I want to enforce another set of approver onto this purchase order, or say, for example, stock production, I can choose. What I can do is I can select everyone here, or I can individually go and select a stock action that requires approval. So let's, for example, I'm going to do these two. Then this will highlight blue once you've selected a checkbox. See, nothing, it grays out. So once I've selected, I can go and select edit settings, and I can say, right, I want to change this to one required approver. You can select it by doing the ticks, the up arrows or down. This gives you an option to filter by name, because sometimes you've got clients that have got a lot of inventory admins and so on. So this will be obviously in a few pages, but you can actually go and filter by a specific name if you want. And basically what I want to do is I want to have Alex as an approver. So there's two buttons over here. The one is a tick, which can approve. As you can see, as I hover over it, it says can approve. And this little one with the little page is someone that can edit. So what that means is if I select Alex Moore to be someone that approves and can edit, editing means that they can, when they have to approve a specific stock action, they can actually go and edit it. So they can edit the quantity or a cost or anything like that. They can actually physically have the power to edit a specific stock action. This here, you can choose for them not to edit, but still approve. So for this example, I've chosen Alex to approve, and he can edit, and I'm also going to approve. and be able to edit.
And just a question, your current status showed that there was 0 approvers required. Does
Yes.
that mean that anybody could actually do it?
Yes.
Okay.
No, when there's no one required. So when there's
Yeah.
no person required, but the names are here. So
Yeah.
when someone changes this to a 1 to a figure like now, so you'll see as you can see, it's still 0. But as I've changed it to require 1 person, that means that either Alex or Shane have to approve this. No one else can actually approve it. But
So
these
when
are
it
the only,
was 0, anybody could have that was on the list could actually approve it. There was no requirement for a specific person to approve it, correct?
well, no. So when there's no, like over here,
Yeah.
this stock issue, there's a 0 here. Even
Yeah.
though I am an approver, this will not ask you for any approvals.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So
Yes,
then
yes,
it will just go straight through. There's no requirement for
correct. There'll
something.
be no requirement for
So
approval.
if support needs to troubleshoot, if there's a 0, it means that anybody could have done it. There was no requirement for approval.
Mhm.
One says either one of these 2 approvers on the right-hand side need to approve it. If there was 2, then is it required that 2 people actually approve the whatever is stock
The stock
action that
action.
you're going to have?
Mhm.
Is that correct? So say for instance, for purchase orders, if there was a required 2, then both you and Alex would have needed to approve the purchase order, correct?
Correct. So usually that's what a support would do when it comes to troubleshooting is um, if there has been an issue regarding an approval or something that went through that shouldn't have gone through, one of their first things they'll do is they'll come through to approvals, check who the approvers are. You can see it on a stock order. You can see it will show at the bottom right, like underneath the totals and the taxes and stuff, it will show approvers. And you'll be able to see the names of who are the approvers on this specific stock order if there was any approvers required.
Okay, perfect. Shane, when obviously your merchant has been set up already. If a merchant wasn't set up, how would this have looked like? Would it have looked like ad approvals, or how would it have looked before?
So it would look like this. Let me go here, select 0. Just going to do this quickly. So that's what it would look like. When you come into approvals for the first time with a new tenant, it will look like this. So a brand new tenant, the staff or whoever's doing it, if it's a support person that's setting up a tenant for a client, or if it's a client themselves, they need to come here into their approval settings. They need to say which ones, if they want to do everything. If they don't, individually, they must either or. They need to come and select a checkbox, and then they need to edit the settings. And this is where the names that appear here are inventory admin on that specific tenant.
Okay, and the inventory admin is set up on our current admin, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you will find the user and you need to check what kind of inventory admin that is, or is there only one inventory admin?
Yeah, correct. So you'll need to go to the staff. No, that's the wrong tenant, sorry. You'll come here to your staff and you'll be able to see who is an inventory user, obviously, and what their access is. So for example, let's have a look at Tarusha. She is an inventory admin. And that's where you see your user level. If you update here, you'll be able to see the level of inventory user that they are. So inventory users are the ones that I have the authority to approve.
Okay. While we're on there, Shane, can you just explain the differences between the three inventory levels that you have in the system?
Okay, so inventory admin is someone that can that has pretty much full reign and full power over myStock. They have the power to edit specific stock orders, to approve orders. Yeah, they pretty much have full access to myStock. An inventory manager and an inventory clerk are people that need to require specific, or shall I say, explicit access control to be able to do certain things. So, for example, a clerk will sometimes necessarily only be able to do maybe some stock takes, but they might not be able to have power access. So when they would sign in, when they log in under their details and they log in, they might only be able to, even though the myStock has full menu, they might only be able to do stock takes. They might not be able to do any kind of stock orders like this. They might also only be able to do receiving stock. Whereas a manager, you can kind of give them a little bit more. I'll actually bring up I've got a good
Will
thing that.
the areas that they are not allowed to touch be grayed out on the left-hand side, or?
I think so. Actually, I haven't checked that, but I can double check it. I'm just trying to find a specific thing for you guys to show you. Okay, I can't. Maybe it's somewhere here. But yeah, it's in the it will be in the myStock integration document, which is on.
All right. Okay, but a question then to support when they troubleshoot, if somebody says they cannot do something, check their access levels, what kind of inventory user they are, to be able to see why they weren't able to do something specific, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
All right. And what else what was it that we were going? Okay, yeah, so that's pretty much approvals.
Yes, let's move on to access control.
Okay, so access control. This is where with regards to access control, is what you would give, say, your managers and clerks. This is where they would be able to come and you would put them in here. So these are the staff members that are that are not inventory admin. They would be a manager, inventory manager, or a clerk. And you
Okay,
can
so
kind of
for these access settings will only be available to an inventory admin staff member.
yes, correct. Access control. Yeah, sorry. So access control will only be available to an inventory admin. Yes,
Okay.
inventory admin, and they can come here and edit and say, right, PT is only allowed to do purchase orders, or shall I say, he's only allowed to receive stock. and he's allowed to do stock issues, and he's allowed to do stock take. And I can go and say, so it's almost similar, very similar to approvals, like the setup, by selecting the staff member. And
so you start with the action and then you go over to the staff
correct,
member.
you go to action, because otherwise you won't be able to access this. You have to select a specific action.
Okay.
And then I can say, right, Diesel Dean is a manager or a clerk, and I've selected him, so he's allowed to, now when he signs in, he will be allowed to receive stock issues, and stock takes. That's all he'll be able to.
All right. And then obviously for support, we should never change this unless we have a formal email request from a customer. Because
Correct,
obviously we will have super admin access, and we cannot change these access settings without a formal request from a customer.
Yes, yeah. This is
Okay.
something that the client should be doing themselves, because they will know who has, basically what the support needs to do if they ever get queried or asked a question from a client about access control, is they just need to be able to be able to explain to the client what this is and what this means, so that they can go and decide for themselves who in their business should be given what responsibility to do or anything like that.
Yeah, I think it's critical to understand the impact that this have on the business. So it's not something to play around with.
Exactly. This can cause huge problems with, if someone is given access to something that they shouldn't be access to, they can end up changing. It allows for basically people to steal, if that makes any sense. They can steal stuff from the business.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so that covers access control. Then can we go to the stock locations? If you can explain the stock locations here in myStock, and then also how does it impact the sales locations in admin, please?
Okay, so in admin, when creating a tenant, so obviously we had a sales and stock location split that everyone is internally that is aware of. And if there were clients that had different stock locations set prior to the split, then you would need to make sure that their sales location and their stock location were correctly set up on admin. So I'll explain that to you now. But on myStock, you can select, at the moment, there's clients that can have as many stock locations as they want, but I'm not sure what the license is regarding that yet. I haven't looked much into the license about how many stock locations one client may have. But this is where you come to your stock locations settings, and all your stock locations will show up here. So on admin, you when it comes to locations, I'll go to sales location. After the split happened, if there's only one selling location, one sales location, then it would generally have your one sales location, and it would say default stock location. You can go and change the name of the default to whatever the sales location is. Most of the time, that's what it is. So it'll generally be the same as the sales location, same name. And obviously, this is regards to POS. So with admin having a sales location, that stock location is what will be on POS. So when you sign into POS, into this selling location, this is the stock location that it's going to pull the stock from.
Okay. How is the sales and stock locations connected? Can you have one sales location with multiple stock locations, or can you have multiple sales locations with one stock location? Can you just explain that?
So yes, you can have one sales location with multiple stock locations, but I have to make sure that I'm not saying the wrong thing here, but I think it's the selling location will pull the stock from the main stock location that is attached to it. So if you have a look here, no. So this stock location is linked to this selling location. And
so it looks to me that maybe you can have different sales locations pull from one stock location, but not one sales
yes,
location drawing from multiple stock
yes,
locations.
that's right. That's yes,
All
yeah.
right.
Sorry, that's
All right.
correct.
So if you created a new one here that said you've had another sales location, you could have had a stock location Winelands associated to that one as well. So this might be
Correct.
applicable to a bar and a restaurant that actually draw from the same stock.
Correct.
Okay. All
Yes,
right. Perfect.
that's
All right. So tell me, Shane, in terms of setting up my stock locations, um, do you start with this before you connect the sales to the stock locations in admin, or do you start with an admin and add stock locations there? Where would you start by
right.
adding stock locations?
So first things first is if it's a new customer, obviously what we'd do is if it's an existing client, we would need to make sure that their stock location, sales location is paired up correctly. You know, like what we were just explaining now, where we've got if they have only one selling location, then that's fine because there'll be one stock location set up. So what we'll do is we'll just have one stock location for the one selling location. If there's multiple selling locations, we need to make sure that each selling location is paired up to the correct stock location. So if there were, for example, like two here, and the one's name was bar and the one was restaurant, but they only had one stock location for the meantime, we need to make sure that they both have the same correct stock locations set up here. If it's, for example, we have just one selling location, right? Just ignore this one for now. But let's say there was just one selling location. There would be one stock location that would be automatically set up with this selling location. So you would obviously it would show up here as default. You can go into your stock locations over here, and it will show up with just one over here. So obviously I've got it set up, but you'll have, for example, it'll just say
And
default.
Shane, what do you suggest for neatness, obviously, and for this everything to work well? Do we suggest that we remove that default and rather give it a name, or are you guys okay with keeping a default?
No, it's best to change the name of the stock location to the selling location. So if it's just one one selling location and there's one stock location, you would change it to the name of the selling location.
Okay.
It just makes it easier to understand rather than default.
So support, just take note that we do not want to keep stuff on default. Like we do with everything else, we shouldn't have tags on default, none of those. We should also get used to naming our stock locations so that we don't get confused with that. Okay. Okay,
Yes.
thanks, Shane. All right, so just wanted to ask again, I don't think we answered the creation of the stock location.
Locations, yes. So once you're happy with your admin and how the sales and stock locations are set up, you'll come here and your stock location, which is linked to your selling location, if it's just one for the meantime, it'll show up here. So it'll say Winelands, it'll only be one. And basically what you can do is you'll select it because it might not necessarily have an email address attached to it or anything. It might not have anything here. So you'd actually select it by selecting it here. And this is where this drawer would be brought up, and you'd go in and edit it to how the customer wants it.
Can you close quickly again? I just want to see where did you click to open it?
Wherever it's grayed out.
Okay,
Which,
you can click anywhere there. All right.
I can select it here and it will open it up.
Okay, cool. All right.
This is one big button.
All right, perfect. So it's not an edit function, it's just a click on it.
No, it's a click on button.
Okay.
So you can select it.
Okay.
It'll show you the name up at the top here. And this is where you would actually need to come and set up the specific stock location settings. So what kind of location it is. Is it a stock location? Is it an admin location? Or is it a cost center location? I'll explain these to you now. If the client wants to allow for this location to be activated, so if you allow for it to be activated, there's a bunch of things that it does. If it's allowed to be deactivated, if so, only allow when there's no stock on hand. So you can select this and then deactivate it only when there's no stock on hand.
Is that kind of like archiving it so the data doesn't go away? It's just not accessible anymore.
It's not accessible anymore.
Okay.
It won't disappear. You can still come back to it. So it'll still show up here, over here, if I go back. Okay, actually, let me just do, no, sorry. If I had to deselect it here and I had to save it, I won't do it right now, but if you'll see here, there's a column here that says active. So you'll see if it doesn't have a tick, then you know it's not activated. So it's something for what to know is if they've got a stock location and they go into the stock location over here. Actually, the stock location will not show up here if it's deactivated. So that's something. If someone's like, I can't find my stock location, why? It will be because they'll be able to see it over here, and they'll think, why can I not see my stock location over here? It's because they need to make sure that this is active.
Okay, great. Okay, let's have a look at one of them and what, like you said, the location type and everything.
Yes.
Go through that.
So your three different types of stock locations. You've got your standard stock location, your admin location, and your cost centers. Your stock location is a location that will generally obviously hold stock. It's a standard location that will move between, you can do multiple types of stock orders, such as you can do all the stock orders like purchase orders, requisitions, transfers, stock issues. You can do all the stock. This can allow for all stock orders to happen, where you've got a stock location. Yeah, so basically a stock location is a place that holds stock. An admin location is a location that does not hold stock. You can see here, the moment I select admin, it grays out the hold stock. There should not be any stock quantities in this location. And what this location can do is, if you have a normal stock location, they can request stock from admin locations. So I can do a requisition on an admin location, and basically what an admin location says, okay, this stock location has requested this amount of stock. I do not hold the stock, but what I can do is I can go and place a purchase order on behalf of that stock location. So this can do purchase orders on behalf of a stock location, and what it does is it will go and place a purchase order from a pending purchase order list, and that's basically it'll create a purchase order with those items that the stock location had requested from the admin location, and then it'll purchase the orders. The orders will cut, the stock will come in, and it immediately goes back into it gets sent to the requesting stock location. A cost center is also another location that does not hold stock. What a cost center does is I'll explain it to you now. I've actually written it down. Give me a moment. I wrote it down to make it easier to explain. So a cost center obviously is a location that does not hold stock. It's a location where you can request stock from a cost center. So same thing, you can have a normal stock location and you can request stock from this cost center. Basically what it does is it will auto receive the stock and it will immediately issue it out. So you can request stock from this, and what it does is it auto receives it and then it immediately issues the stock out. So that the stock is then basically an expense against the cost center. So it's not exactly.
I think maybe we should delve into that a bit later.
Yes,
it sounds a bit more complex than I delve into a little bit more, and maybe you can show some examples. Let's not do it today because there's quite a lot that we want to cover just for the basics. I don't think everybody will be using it. It might be the largest that use it, correct?
Correct. Yes, it's usually something that, it's for like a larger business. So yeah, standard stock location you can set here. It will usually be standardized as a stock location, or shall I say defaulted to a stock location. If it holds stock, you can select to have an initial stock take that is not completed. When this is not selected, the first time you do a stock take, it will. So basically, when you've put in stock, some clients will want to do this. So they will want to do an initial stock take. So when they do their first stock take of their business, this will be deselected. They will count all of their stock, and at the sort of the end point, when you're completing your stock take, it'll bring up another drawer that will say, will this be an initial stock take complete, or will this initial stock take be completed? And if you select yes, then this will automatically populate as a tick. So once you've completed your first stock take, it will change it to initial stock take complete.
What do you suggest, Shane? Should we rather get people to do initial stock take, or should we do initial stock take on the old inventory before we get here?
I'd recommend doing it. I'd recommend
doing it on myStock.
It depends. It depends if it's a brand new client. It might be good for them to do a stock take where the stock take has not been completed yet.
All right. And in terms of older customers, do you feel confident that the switching over, there's no issues that we need to be aware of with regards to stock levels?
It should.
Okay. I'm just asking because obviously we come across things. Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So it could be that a customer can just switch over. They don't have to do initial stock take. But if we can, we should rather recommend that they do one. And then we know everything is fine when they switch over to myStock. Obviously, a new customer, we always suggest that they do an initial stock take and get it over the line. All right.
Exactly.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
This over here is a default location for stock requisitions. So what that means is that you can select so I'm in the Winelands store, right? I'm in my Winelands stock location. I've selected the Winelands stock location. So I can go and select a default location for stock requisition. So that means if Winelands requires stock and needs to request stock from another stock location, they can select a default location that they would usually always request stock from. So if this is the restaurant and it always requests stock from, say, example, a storeroom. If you have a storeroom location, obviously right now I've got a whole bunch here. So, but and when you're setting it up in the beginning, you won't have anything show up here because you'll only be on your first one. Once you start creating multiple stock locations, they'll start appearing here.
And
So
is it a requirement to have that completed or not?
no, you don't have to have anything here, but it's always good to select one. Anyway, it just basically what this does is when you select a default location for a requisition, when you're creating a requisition, when it brings up a drawer on the left side here when you're adding your items, or you create the name for the requisition, it'll automatically populate the location underneath it. But you can still select it and change it to a different location. You don't have to select the default location. It just helps. It automatically populates the name for you.
Okay. Just make less clicks if
Less clicks,
always use it. Okay. All right.
Correct.
Perfect. All right.
This is for purchase orders that show only items available from the selected supplier. You can select that or deselect that. This is all up to the client's preferences, basically, is what they want. Do they want to automatically receive stock on a stock transfer or not? It depends on what kind of situation they want, kind of thing. So you can choose to select it or deselect it. A lot of people don't select this. A lot of people actually do select it because it's just one less process you have to follow.
So that is what we
actually
currently don't have, is we don't have ability to automatically receive stock. So this will allow, we had quite a lot of customers request that. So this will allow you, if somebody transfers stock to your location, you will be able to immediately receive it. You don't have to go through an extra step, correct?
Exactly. You don't have to go into receive stock here and go to the awaiting and then select it and receive it. It will just automatically receive and populate your stock. Allow item unit prices from the supplier to be updated when receiving goods. So you can allow for that to happen if you want it. General information about it, a description of the specific stock location, what it is, and an address. You don't have to put in the address, but sometimes there will be like places, African lodges and stuff, where they've got, they'll have multiple locations, but in one specific area. So it might be a different name, but same area. And what it basically does is I think it goes after the city. So if I've got restaurant Paul and I've got, I have two restaurants that are in Paul, or something like that, it will generally show a comma with the name next to it.
Okay, so these addresses aren't the same requirement that you have with sales locations. With sales locations, adding the address is extremely important for the whole system. This is not a requirement for stock control. All right.
Stock locations, no, it's not a huge requirement. It's not necessary. For suppliers, it will become quite necessary. Obviously, once we have that, once we have the system set up where you can send a purchase order or place a purchase order, and it will automatically send the invoice out.
Yeah.
The email to the.
Okay, perfect. So obviously we've gone through this creating of the stock locations. Can you have a stock location without a sales location? And when would you use that, Shane?
So you said, can you have a
stock location without a sales location? And how would that be used?
So I mean, this is my selling location, which has all of these stock locations in it. So I can switch between different stock locations, but I will still be in this selling location.
But what I actually meant is you'll have your selling location, you've got your stock locations, but the pulling of the stock. So when you sell, where does that sale pull the stock from? From a specific stock location. But you can have, like you said, you showed there you had a head office. What is the use of those stock locations? Those are just for requisitions or for purchase orders and buying from suppliers and then transferring it to other locations.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say. So you can have stock locations that's not connected directly to the sales side of the business.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because obviously with your selling locations, that's basically your pods. So that's your whatever um, whatever stock location that's linked to your POS system, your POS device, where your POS devices are, that's where it's going to pull stock from. In terms of, obviously, stock will get moved around and pulled and transferred and stuff between each other. But when it comes to sales, sales will come from the stock location that's paired to that selling location.
Yeah. So for support in install and sales, you can have multiple stock locations that are only used for purchasing, for transfers, for requisitions, for all of those stock functions. Stock takes obviously as well. So say for instance, you've got the warehouse there. The stock comes in there, they stay there for a bit and they get issued to different locations or transferred. Um, that doesn't necessarily have a sales location that are, selling, but it's still relevant to the specific merchant. And that is where this is why there's so many sales locations,
Correct.
stock location, sorry,
Yeah.
stock location.
Good.
So there's different functions that a person will do in stock take, and that is why there might be more stock locations applicable. Okay. All right. Thanks, Shane. I think next time we definitely need to go in a bit more detail on the cost center and the admin side. But I think on the basic stock location, we've gone through what is required for them to get going. So let's have a look at the suppliers.
Okay. Okay, so suppliers in the settings, this is where all of your suppliers will show up from, and is also linked to your admin. So whatever suppliers you see in admin over here, all of your suppliers that you see here will be pushed through to your myStock. So these are all your suppliers over here that you've created. It's the same thing, it's the same feature where you've got a button and you can select that specific supplier. You can look at all their general information. If they have a tax reference number, which is quite important to know, a supplier code, if they've got any credit limit, um, this is the address, which is also quite important to have to make sure that they have an address for eventually when the feature comes in where they can, send out an email, which is not quite in the works yet, but once it's in, it will automatically place a purchase order and it'll get sent to this address of that supplier that is in that purchase order.
So important for support and sales and installation officers to know. Currently, we cannot email like we do with current inventory directly from the system. You will have to download the document and then email that separately. But Shane has confirmed that they are looking at it in future. All right. Shane, is there a possibility where you can download or export your supplier list at the moment, or is it only available by clicking in them?
No, you can go. So where you go is you'll go into your reports, and then there's also suppliers down here.
All
And what
right.
you can do is you can select the suppliers reports. It'll pull them all up here, and then you can export it as an Excel.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so then just going back to the suppliers, we are just so that everybody knows, there's no integration here specifically with the accounting side. The accounting integration still happens from admin side. And therefore, if you want to import your suppliers, we will be doing some more tests to make sure it works properly. You will be syncing your suppliers and your customers still from your accounting side on admin. And like Shane showed, the admin suppliers will also show up on the myStock side. So there's no
And
need to start adding them here.
exactly.
Sorry, you said vice
versa. You can
Okay.
create one here, and it will show up in your admin.
Admin. Okay, perfect. All right. So
All
that's
right.
great to see. Okay. Um,
Another thing to note on suppliers is tax reference. Now, tax reference number is something that's something to take note of, because when it comes to, we'll explain this in another video, but when you are doing a thing such as a purchase order from a supplier, some suppliers usually give prices, or shall I say cost of prices, cost of unit or items that are exclusive of tax, and some have inclusive of tax. So when you have a supplier that has a tax reference number, when you're creating your purchase orders, you will see that these items will have tax inclusive. You can also have tax suppliers that do not have a tax reference number, which is generally when the suppliers invoice the client with prices excluding of tax. So that's when you'll have a supplier that does not have a tax reference number. The moment
if the tax reference number is populated, then the prices are inclusive of any taxes. If there's no tax reference, then it's exclusive of tax. Yes. Or is it just not that there's no tax applicable? It's 0%.
There's zero tax applicable. So it'll basically that price that
so
you're
actually
seeing.
Everything is inclusive. It's just applicable to 0%.
Yeah. Okay. So there are some suppliers that still there. You can still change it. You can come into the settings here and you can change if it was a supplier that ended up having a tax reference number, but they received stock from the supplier and realized that it's actually exclusive of tax, you can come and remove the tax reference number here. But most likely that purchase order will have the tax in it, unfortunately. So you'd have to, the clients need to make sure that the suppliers that they create are either inclusive of tax or exclusive of tax.
Okay, and when you click on one of those suppliers, I just want to see, is there any place where you can edit the tax rate, or is it just standard, it pulls from the merchant or from our merchant side?
No, yeah. So it would be, there's no like tax rates on here, but it would be per item. So you'd have to obviously, so same as admin, you'd have your purchase tax.
So the admin tax is applicable to this
yes.
side. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah. So whatever your tax group and your tax rates that is on admin will be applicable in myStock.
Okay, thanks. I think when we do a purchase order, it will be a bit more clear to understand, is the prices, how do we set up those products? Because obviously it was exclusive before on POS inventory. So I think we just need to maybe delve into that when we do the purchase ordering. But
we can do that.
Cool. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so that's pretty much everything you need to know about suppliers. And then the next setting is departments. So this is where you would come here, you'd select your departments. When first creating your departments on myStock, when you have your departments on the admin, they won't necessarily show it up as like sub and heading, like your overall department and then a subheading and then your other departments within those. It would generally just look like this. It would just have a bunch of items all the way down without any filters. So what you'd need to do is you'd need to come in here and create these. And what you can do is when you expand, well, you won't have the option to expand all because they will already be expand looking like this. So they'll all just be one long line. And then the customer can go and edit and create departments on here and drag other departments within. So like, for example, I can do something here quickly where I can go and you can just click and hold on a department and you can pull it out and drop it out of the department. So you'll see this one, I created this myself. I now created it here in myStock. I didn't create it on the back on the on the admin. I came here and I simply went new department. I added a name. I typed in food. I made it active. You can set your target GP margin. So this is something that the client will want. They can set this up themselves, what their GP margin is. For this example, creating a heading department, you wouldn't necessarily need to put any GP margin in, but these ones that will go in, the important departments is what you would want to, if they would set up a GP margin for. This is accounting settings, which we haven't done yet. You can select the active stock locations. So what locations these will be active in. This is what you need to make sure you have selected. So when you create something like just a heading, you don't need to worry about putting all of that stuff in. But when you do, you create the thing and you can save it and it'll show up like this. And then obviously I want all my bakery, butchery, deli, and ingredients departments within my food department. So I can just simply go drag it down, pull it across. Sorry, actually you do this to put it above. And I can simply click, drag it, pull it across till that little blue thing goes to the right, that little blue dot, and then I release and it drops it in there. And then you can do the same thing. And then it highlights the food. Then you know that it's in there and you can simply drop. If I accidentally went and dropped it into the bakery, you can go out, drop it out there, and you can simply just pull in and click and drag and pull it in. And so it will do that. Obviously, you want to do it in alphabetical order. It's the best way to do it. Once you do that and you're happy with the way you've pulled it in, you've pulled everything in, you must be sure to go and save sequence. Always very, very important to save sequence, because if you don't, if you just drag them into a department like this, and then you say, oh, actually, I want to add another department, and you don't save it, you add another department, and then you click save, and you come back here, it will pull these out of this department again. So you'd have to do it over again. But it's something. It's not a crisis. You can still like add. Like if you've got all of your departments here, but you want to create a beverages, a counter sales, I want to add an alcoholic heading, a non-alcoholic heading, all of these types of things, you can add them all, add new department, or just add, and then you can simply click, drag everything into the right position. Then you go save sequence. It'll say updating, save successful, and then it will save it like that.
Shane, just in terms of departments, does it have the same use as it used to have for reporting purposes?
What do you mean?
What is the use of departments? Is it only for reporting so that you can see your different departments and what you've have in stock in those departments and what you've sold?
Yes, yeah. So it's for reporting, but it's also for when you're looking at your stock inquiries, which is kind of like your products list. You can go into your inquiries and you can search and filter by your departments. So it's your departments is to help you, I guess, narrow down the search that you're looking for, so that you're not just looking at all the items or everything in one. You can go to your stock inquiries and you can search by department, because that's the most popular thing. Is a lot of people search by item name, but in your stock inquiries you can actually select department, and then you can go and select beers or wines or whatever it is.
Okay, perfect. Can you change the name of a department? Does it have an influence on reporting later on, or is it not a problem to do that?
No, it wouldn't be a problem on reporting. I mean, obviously it would change the name in the reporting, but it's just if you wanted to change this to craft beers, you just obviously need to remember that if you didn't create.
Yeah. So say for instance, Shane, if a customer changed that name during from one to another, in terms of the reporting, say, for instance, they say, oh, I can't find my beers reporting, but they've changed it to craft beer. How will we be able to match that to see that that actually happened in terms of a support side? Is it something that will be visible? You'll see if you draw a report for a product that it changed the department. Is that how you would troubleshoot it? So for instance, you would
Yeah.
look at a castle. Sorry, I'm not a good beer drinker, but say for instance, you were searching castle, and you will have to start there. You won't be able to look at department and see how different. You'll need to search a report per a product to see whether the department
Yes,
changed.
yeah, exactly. So if you're looking at a report, yeah, for example, like if you're looking for, they say they can't find the report for their beers, for a specific beer or something, or a specific department because they've changed the name, you'd have to search by, I think, by the name of the item, and that would show the department that item is in. And so then you'd know that they must have changed the name. Otherwise, you can come into your settings and you can look at at what departments they have and see, okay, they said they can't find their beers department, but if you look here and there's no beers except for craft beers, then you know that they have changed their name.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's have a look at the last one, and then we can save this recording, and that is the reasons.
Yeah. Also, another thing to note, which hasn't been added to any of the documentation yet, we will add it, and that's just something that's recently come to my knowledge even, and that is when you've created a new tenant, often there'll be clients that will say, when they're looking at their stock inquiries and they select, so I'll just go out of here quickly and show you. So like they'll go into their stock inquiries and they will want to search their beers department, and they select search and it will show no data here. They'll be like, why can I not see any of my it's usually from with a new tenant that's just been created, and like everything's just been pulled through. Best thing to do, the first thing you must do is to go into your settings, go to your departments, and even though your departments and everything are all set up and everything's good, just simply go and click save sequence, because sometimes when you've created when there's been an import that's been done, so usually when they've imported their products list or whatever, and everything should be in the correct departments and stuff, sometimes it hasn't actually saved the sequence in. So you just come to your department's settings and you just hit save sequence, and when you go back to your stock inquiries, you can simply go and you can search for your products again, and it should pull through the information on all the items. Just a little hint recently that's just came to my knowledge. It's something that we need to add into the documentation still. So that pretty much covers departments. Yeah, so like with departments, when you're talking, Anna, about you know, why we have different departments and stuff, is it just for reporting? No, it's not just for reporting. It's for ease of narrowing down something. You know, when someone wants to look for their specific products, a lot of people type in their items over here to find it, but a lot of people also use the department, and you can filter through your departments. That's why you have this. And you can search multiple departments at the same time if you want, and it will pull through the information. You can select your filters here, which we'll go through at another day, another time. But yeah, that's pretty much why we have departments. And also when you're doing purchase orders and stuff as well, when you're creating a new purchase order, and you've got your thing here, it actually shows the department just in front of the item, so you know what department those items are from. The last thing in the settings is the reasons. This is a new feature that we've just brought in, and I'll one of the reasons we put in this reasons was when some clients are doing things like wastage or issues, when they're issuing out, usually there's an option to give a reason why you're issuing the stock out, or what wastage, like what is the reason for wasting this product. So we had a generic amount of reasons what the reason was for to waste it or issue it out, and it was like breakage, or sorry, damage, expired, and such, so on. So we've given the option for the clients to actually go in here and create a new reason why. So like if they have a staff party, or I don't know, you can add any kind of reason for yourself, and you can give it a reason type. So what it is for, like, some restaurants or kitchens or something will have a specific niche reason why they are wasting it or issuing it out or returning it to the supplier. So you can create your own reasons, and you obviously set it to active, save it, and then every time you do a wastage or an issue, it will give you that option. So it's a new sort of like toggle, in addition, customizable to each tenant.
So yeah, it could also be like linen or soap for the rooms, or etc. etc.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Or like mints, little like peppermints for the front desk, for the reception desk, or like stuff like that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much, Shane. This is greatly appreciated. If you can share that recording with me, then I can share with the staff on the training channel, and then we can see how we can get this in Monday for future reference as well, if possible. And then I'll see you in 2 days again for an update on our next training session.
I think it's tomorrow.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah, there's one tomorrow, same time.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, I think I have about 3 this week. Yeah.
With the recording, does it not save it to? Does it not send you an email, or does it only send it to me?
Let me see if I get it. If I don't, I'll let you know. Okay.
Okay, perfect.
All right. Thank you very much, Shane. Appreciate it.